Ammirante. I work with the game day.
Yeah. I'm James Brimacombe. I'm FootballGuys. I'm Eagles on Twitter and in the underdog lobbies. So,
What? Let's just ask the crowd. So raise your hand if mostly on best ball you play on underdog. What about DraftKings? All right, so we could mix it up like that and talk different. Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
I guess no one talks about those sites.
yeah. So what we could talk about like the strategies and stuff here.
Yeah, so I was thinking, I know last year, if anyone came, we kind of opened it up and did a draft and we kind of walked through the process. But the problem is today we do not have a connection to the TV, so we can't really like watch it as we go, which thank you, Justin Herzig, for not being here. That would have been very helpful. But we could hop in a league together and just kind of go through picks. It could just be, or we can just like answer questions about general questions about basketball. We can talk about strategies, talk about player ownerships. Kind of open it up to anything. I've been playing basketball for probably 10 plus years. Like back in the day, MFL 10. So they were the first. That was like the OG of basketball. It kind of grew from there. I don't know if anyone ever play on the draft app, Play Draft. Yeah, it was a Play Draft app. They got bought out by FanDuel, um, and then actually a lot of the guys from that Play Draft, a lot of the workers there, they ended up going over to Underdog. So that's kind of how Underdog formed. Like a lot. I don't know if you know Nick Rudman. Like he was a draft. He was a draft guy. That's where he started. So yeah, it just keeps growing. This year, Best Ball Mania 4, that's their big advertising piece. So I won't share my exact opinion on that contest, but actually I will. If you ask the question, I'll tell you all about it. But it just keeps growing. That first prize to that tournament is $3 million. So to me, that's huge. That's like life changing. But realistically, you have to beat 700,000 people. And the drop off to second place, which is incredible. If you get second place, is $1 million. And here's the kicker: third place down to 300,000. So to me, that's hard. If I put my money in like that, obviously that's a dream scenario, and obviously that's gonna make you in the industry or whatever. And we've seen that with past winners on those tournaments. Liam and I think Herzig won the first one, then Liam, than Pat Crane last year. So yeah, they're a lot of fun, but I have a lot of ideas how I play, whatnot. Sorry, I'm just rambling. I could talk best ball like 3 hours straight. Oh, right on. Yeah, rookie mistakes from the first time I started. So I loved the draft aspect. So fantasy football to me was draft day when I was in that draft. I had my cheat sheet ready, my rankings, and trying to figure things out before going in. And I just love that experience of being able to draft with friends, um, and pick my team. But yeah, a lot of rookie mistakes. Best ball's a lot different. Even doing the draft yesterday, the draft night out, it was a redraft league, and I have no idea how to draft redraft anymore because my brain's so hooked on best ball. So there, I mean, there's a ton of rookie mistakes. I think bankroll is probably the first one you want to think about. You want to think, are you doing this for fun? Are you want to do it with friends? Are you looking, to win a tournament maybe? So then you want to choose, okay, what tournament? I didn't have goals when I first started. So every year now I try to have a set goal. Like this is what I want to accomplish. Um, so last year, like I'm pretty honest. Like anything you ask, I will tell you. I'll tell you numbers. I'll tell you anything because I love basketball and I want it to grow. But yeah, like last year going into the season, my goal was I wanted to get like a basketball mania into the finals. That didn't happen. I've tried 3 years. I haven't. That contest is really hard, for one. Um, but my goal is I wanted to $50,000 ROI. Like that's what I wanted. That was a set goal. I spend a lot of time. It's almost like a full time job, part time job sort of thing. I'll get up early before I go into work. and I'll draft for a couple hours. But my whole goal of best ball is it's fun, but also it's a way to help like support my family and my kids. I got 4 kids, so any money we do win in best ball usually goes to like family vacations, those kind of things. But so yeah, that was my goal, and yeah, I did hit that, and but it was a lot of effort, and it's a long process. But I made so many rookie mistakes. So I've been playing for years, and I was doing things wrong. I wasn't looking at my player ownerships. I was taking players that were maybe older and kind of they're only gonna play certain games. Um, so I like when I draft now. I never want to take a zero. Best ball is there's no waiver wires, there's no trades. So my whole goal going in is I don't. I get you want to take some risk and you want to have guys that maybe have upside, but I just made a simple goal. I don't want to take a zero. So um, yeah, Kyler Murray. We don't know if he's gonna play for 4 weeks or whatever it is. Like I, I get like if he does play, he's gonna be an awesome value. But for me, I'd rather just somebody else draft him, and I just take Kenny Pickett instead. I know Kenny Pickett's locked in, for 17 weeks. So things like that I learned. Player ownerships. People will have big takes on certain players in the industry. So you'll look on Twitter and whatnot, and they have big takes. Hey, I have 60% of this player. So that was a big mistake I made. Injuries happen, no waiver wire. So I kind of limit my guys that I love to about the 20% range. But I'm going to let Frank talk because I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, so one of my rookie mistakes with best ball is like not putting enough weight into week 17, because that's where, like, especially if it's like the underdog large field tournaments, you need that correlation. Like, you want to create a game stack once you get to that level. So, like, from now, I'm thinking like it's a tiebreaker for me if I like two players, but then one correlates with the other one. So, for example, let's say it took in the first round Amon-Ra St. Brown. Then in the second round, I love Nick Chubb and I love Tony Pollard. But Tony Pollard, the Cowboys play the Lions in week 17. So I use that as a tiebreaker now. But before I didn't put enough stock in it, and I realized that was like a mistake and something I had to incorporate going forward. And another mistake, going back to what you were saying about your player shares and ownership, is like sometimes I'm a bit too overconfident that I'm going to be right on a player. So like last year, I loved Rashad Penny. I know he's always hurt, but like when he's rolling, he's could be one of the most efficient runners. Anyway, so he would go late, and I would try to get him in most of my drafts, and then of course he's out early in the year. So like not being too overconfident in your stand. That's something I had to like work on, and incorporate with it now. Yeah, yeah. But does anyone else have any question? We can talk even more. Yeah.
So how often are you guys changing up these stats? Like, let's say you take Cousins and then you have Hawkinson and you have Jefferson. How often are you switching that to take Cousins again to Hawkinson and Madison or Addison and Jefferson?
That's a good question. So I think the way I would do it is the ones that I really like. If I'm like, I like Jordan Addison, I think, because he's in a good role. Adam Thielen ran like the second most routes last year, so he's stepping in. He has a chance to step in that role. So that would be a player like I'd try to prioritize him in a Viking stack. Like I don't really like KJ Osborne that much, so I would probably take less of him. It would just be about like the main targets I would try to get more of in those stacks, and then the ones I don't like as much, maybe squeak in one on a couple teams, something like that. How about you?
Yeah, like first off, like the beauty of best ball is you don't have to be the same. So like, everything he just said, I kind of do opposite, and and it is completely fine, right? Because there's no set way to do it. Where he said, like stacking, yeah, it is very important. A week 17, like week 17 is not part of what I do, but I know like if you listen to anybody's best ball podcast out there, that's going to be one of the first things they say because these tournaments are so top heavy. So I get that angle, but I've been playing like on underdog for the 3 years that's been going, the fourth year, and best ball mania. I've never made a team into the finals. So to me, the finals is week 17. So why do I care about week 17? To me, it's more like I want to get teams into week 17 to have a shot. So um,
So do you put more stock into the entire like 14, 15, 16, or 15, 16, 17 weeks?
I don't, because I don't have time for that. Like, I'm drafting high volume of teams and so many teams. Like, I can automatically do it in my head. I can do 5 to 10 teams fast drafts at a time. I know the ADPs. To me, it's all about chasing value. Like, that's where I find. I mean, I love football. I love the players. I do have favorite players and such, but to me, it's more where I can get these players in value, the opportunity that they show. I try not to be biased on players. If I love the Eagles, doesn't mean I'm going to draft all the Eagles players, or um, maybe I don't like Odell Beckham this year, so I'm not going to draft him. But I say not going to draft him. If he falls a certain way, there's always a price that I will draft someone. So, um, yeah. No, that's a great question for sure. That goes back to a rookie mistake you asked earlier. So you only have 18 spots on Underdog and 20 spots on DraftKings. I got my DraftKings player there in the middle. So you draft a lot different if you're drafting on 18 to 20 rounds, because you can do more with the 20 rounds, right? So I love 20 rounds. 20 rounds, I feel like if you're good at what you do, you're going to have a better edge. And you can play it safer. So 20 rounds, it's easy to go. If you want to go 3 QBs, six running backs, 8 receivers, 3 tight ends. That's like kind of standard, easy. But Underdog 18 rounds makes it a little harder, so you can't just keep a balance. I mean, you could go two QBs, 5 running backs, 7 receivers, and 3 tight ends. That's probably, I think the math adds up on there. Maybe not. No, one off. Yeah, eight wide receivers. So yeah, so I'm always looking at balance, and I think that goes underrated a lot. Like, people forget about that part of it, but that's the main part. So I want each of those 18 or 20 roster spots to be players that are going to score points for me. And if I go 2 QBs, I want one to be maybe a top 5 or 10 QB. Or if I don't get the top 12 QBs, maybe I'm going 3 QBs, and maybe I have only 2 tight ends, things like that. So swap back and forth.
Yeah, so it depends on how the draft goes. So like, let's say I took Lamar Jackson early. I'm only going to take one other quarterback, cuz like I'm not going to have 3 when I've invested such draft capital in the position. And same thing with tight end. If you have Kelsey, you're not going to get 3 tight ends. It's kind of, it doesn't make sense, right? But one thing I've listened to a lot of best ball players that I like this strategy is like, your last 3 picks, you take 3 tight ends. So it's like you're just rolling the dice on them. So you stacked your other positions, but because you waited to the end and you have 3, like there's a chance that maybe one will get in your lineup. And one that I really like to take is Isaiah Likely on the Ravens, because he's got a lot of talent. You know, he may not have so much standalone value, but if Mark Andrews missed time, like he could be like a top 7 tight end maybe. So if you're building a 3 tight end team, I think he's the perfect tight end 3, because you don't have to, rely on him early to like get you those points. It's kind of like a lottery ticket you're swinging for the fence on. So in this kind of build, let's say I did the 3 tight ends, I would say like you could get Jake Ferguson on the Cowboys. He's got some upside. He could take that Dalton Schultz role. The rookie Peyton Hendershot, I think, is kind of, like behind. Like it's Ferguson. He's going to be the one. So you take him. You could pair him with what, like a Mike Gesicki on the Patriots. Bill O'Brien's going to emphasize those 2 tight ends. You could even take Hunter Henry, the teammate, and then you put it with Isaiah Likely. And then by doing that with those 3 tight ends, you could have like a 5 running back build and like 8 receivers, and you really stack those positions. So it's like a different way to go about it that I heard a lot of people talking about, and I'm a fan of that strategy for sure.
Keep the questions coming. Anybody else? Anybody new to basketball that doesn't know what it is? Or oh, yeah. Yeah. What do you got in the back? Okay, great. No, that's great. Fantastic. So starting out, yeah, so are you mainly just redraft that you've been doing? Yeah. So I think the tips are, you are you on Twitter and see everybody posting stuff all the time, So don't get caught up in that stuff. Don't get caught up in the marketing. Don't get caught up in the big prizes. Like start out slow. Enter contests or if you want to do the tournaments, $3 to $5 or whatever. Like the prizes are great on there too. Like it's still pretty decent money. So I get it's not the $3 million, but if I was new, I maybe put one in that thing, but I don't think you need to. So. Yeah, that's a great question. So, number one rule: don't tell my wife. But yeah, no. Um, the success has led to, hey, I don't spend any money we make goes to the family, right? And so she got on board and she's happy with it. But to me, it's a bankroll. I play all the sports, so I love NFL, but I play best ball for baseball, basketball, hockey, golf, all those things. And the reason I do that is like a cycle. So I run out of money on the site, it will automatically, hey, this baseball season's ending, so it's gonna bump my bankroll. So I kind of keep rolling it over until I hope I hit a big tournament.
So if you're telling somebody like, hey, if you're going to hit 150 entries, when would be the latest time they should start? Like the latest time
Oh,
they should start making.
I got you what you're saying now. Okay, sorry, yeah, I went in a different direction. No, so that's a great question too because people say what was it July 18th. That's when the last two people won that drafted.
It was a crane and then the regular season winner both were on.
Yeah, yeah. I think this month's the best month to draft. Just who's hurt. Like depth charts better. Your money goes a little bit further. You're not making dead lineups, but maybe you're not hitting like that perfect lineup from way back. So
I think just to add on to his point there, when you notice there's a lot of uncertainty on a really good player and he's kind of dropped in value, like quote buy the dip kind of thing. Like for example, Jonathan Taylor's perfect right now. There's so much uncertainty on his injury, his contract. So you could get him like in the third round. So if you could time it when there's like these little pockets of the off season where there's all these question marks around a player, maybe do a couple teams, you get some round three Jonathan Taylor, and then combine him with like Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle. That's pretty nasty. So I think that's another little wrinkle to add to it. Like even earlier in the offseason, with Saquon Barkley, there was questions if he's going to hold out, and then he didn't. So you got him at a discount. So if you time it right like that, I think that works out well. Yeah.
So with your last couple of round picks, are you guys going for players that might be able to provide some spike weeks for you guys? Are you covering like team stacking? Like if you have Justin Jefferson, you're taking J.J. Osborne with one of the last picks to cover if he gets hurt. Like how do you guys play your last couple of picks normally in draft?
I think for me, it's yeah, basically a combination of that. Like try to finish off the stack. Like if like Osborne would be. I know I mentioned earlier I don't really like him, but like for best ball, he's fine because he could have those spike weeks as a deep threat. So if I have a Viking stack, I'd look to take him or even like those last picks, like the tight end thing. I really like that one. I'm gonna be doing that one a lot. The three tight ends right at the end. And one thing I don't want to do, I don't know if you do it, is I don't like taking two running backs on the same team. I heard some people saying like that's a contrarian way to make your lineup different from the field. Like you could take Swift and Penny, and maybe they'll both. But I just personally, I'm not a fan of it. Do you like doing that or no?
I don't lock myself into any strategy. So yeah, I'll do it sometimes, but it depends if like the price is right, right? Like if I get, I mean Detroit's incredible, like so many touchdowns there, right? And two running backs. I think Seattle's a good one to do it with too. Buffalo, like good offenses too. That if there's only two running backs there, maybe there's not a third running back. Like why not? Like it just seems like it's worth it. But I don't go out of my way to do that at all. But I do love the late round tight end thing. Like I think that's really viable. I think it's really fun. I also do the opposite of that sometimes. I'll take both Kelsey and Andrews in the first two rounds. Like first three rounds, yeah. Um, but I also do I'll take three or four tight ends at the end because they're all most of those tight ends at the end are all starters, and you can get them. Another way I like to really start drafts is first 10 picks or 8 picks or whatever you want to do. Only running backs and wide receivers, and then build out from there. Like those are really fun builds. I know everyone's against the running backs. Nobody wants to draft running backs. Everyone hates running backs now. Like they're worse than kickers now almost. But I mean, I think underdog youth running backs are super valuable. Touchdowns are there. I get like there's higher injury risk. There's less bell cow running backs now, so a lot of more split backfields. But I like kind of by round 10. If you can get 4 running backs, 6 wide receivers, and then build out, those are probably my favorite builds. So then like late round 2, like you said, I've been thinking more about that. So one of the mistakes I used to make a lot, I would lock on to a player in those last rounds, and next thing you know, I'm 30% owned on that player, and by week 2, he is out for the year. So there's no sense doing that. So 18th round, like I'd rather have 10 guys that I kind of like and just mix and match them. So that's kind of how I play that. Tournaments, if you're in those deep tournaments, kind of try to get unique maybe with my 18th, 20th round pick. Like I was talking to someone the other day, like Calvin Austin, Pittsburgh, like he's wide receiver 3 or 4, but like he didn't play at all last year, and I bet you he's definitely going to be like 0.2% owned in Best Ball Mania. But like he's that kind of player. Like why not take him? I already have Terrence Marshall 12%. Like why not take Austin? You know, like so things like that I think about a lot.
That was gonna be my next question actually. How often are you trying to draft players where you think they're gonna get less than 1% owned that you want?
Not very often, honestly, because it's more goes back to what Alan was talking about, like the roster construction part. I just feel like I have an advantage if I get solid at each position. So, like, I don't think I need like that guy. I'm more worried about the value and the combos of players, guys I know will be on the field. So,
So, question for you because you hate these types of questions.
Yeah, yeah.
So how often are you getting goofy with like if you take like Lamar Jackson or J.K. Dobbins, do you then take Mike White later because Tua might get out? I mean,
Oh,
not a
damn.
lot of
That
people do
would
that.
be interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting way.
That's something I try to do every now and again. Is just
You
decide
throw
which
in a Mike
receivers.
White.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That and then imagine like
One
he
more shot.
plays like no
Tua's
one's
still
gonna
there.
have him.
So
Yeah, no, that's an interesting way to look at it too. And try maybe I'll try that on one team or something. But oh, one thing I saw that was good on Twitter, someone said, and it made so much sense. So like about the loan player. So he's like building a bill stack, and like everyone looks as the cheap one to Khalil Shakir, the second year wideout. So he's more rostered within the tournament, but let's face it, like he's still like a fringe type, like he's just a supporting receiver. He may not do that much. So instead of taking the one that all these people are mostly taking, you could go Deontay Hardy, the other receiver, who's just a deep threat. Like he's nothing great, but like he could give you a spike week here and there, and like way fewer teams have a player like that. So that could be a way to kind of differentiate yourself from the other teams for sure. And then I even thought of one. So like at the end of the turn, everyone who takes like a Ross St. Brown, they're looking at like CD Lamb because they're so close in. So many, and the Lions and Cowboys play in Week 17. So a lot of people are having that combo, but you can reach, and instead of Lamb, you go Tony Pollard because fewer people will have it. And hey, he could be the most valuable Cowboy over Lamb. I think he's gonna have a huge year. So that could be another way to sort of be a little contrarian in a tournament that has like hundreds of thousands of people, which could help you a little bit for sure.
anything else out there? Yeah, no, those are good, great questions. And I mean, anytime you guys have questions or want to learn about basketball, just reach out on social media. Like I'm always open or whatever, and I love to answer. And I mean, I love doing it. It's changed my life. Just the basketball space. Like I know, like DFS, I played for a long time, but I kind of got like I don't know, basketball just took a whole other angle for me.
you guys opposed to drafting multiple quarterbacks with your
Wait, what was?
So you're saying like
Okay. Okay. So like you would have like Mahomes and Josh Allen on your team? Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's just like a bully, kind of like the tight end where I would go Kelsey and Andrews, right? You just like bully your room, and especially like not in a tournament. That's yeah, you could do that for sure. That's I think that's viable. It's all about week to week, right? So I get like they're both top QBs, but you could get 8 weeks from each of them, and give you like a spike 30 point weeks and stuff like that. So. Uh, I honestly am not, but I get it. Like I think people wanted to do that last year with what like the Seahawks. People was out on Seattle. I mean, I get this year it's like Cardinals. Everyone hates the Cardinals. Like I'm buying Hollywood Brown. It's one of my highest owned players. Like I'll buy him. I'm McBride. I love like Kyler. I'm like on the fence back and forth. Sometimes if he falls like 18th round, I'll grab him as a QB3 just for the upside. But I don't like to go off teams.
yeah, one team that I don't really like to take a lot of their players, even though I think they'll be pretty solid, maybe win 9 to 10 games, is the Steelers. Just because they kept Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, and he's not very good. Like he's not like that innovative type of play caller. I feel like if they made a different hire there, then maybe like the offense could take a leap, just switched up the play caller. But they didn't. So like it's kind of I don't know. I know a lot of people like Deontay Johnson because he has such a target share and he got 0 touchdowns last year. Like what are the chances of that again? But I don't think that Steelers offense is gonna improve that much. Like it'll be a little bit better Kenny Pickett year two, but I would have felt more comfortable if they made a different hire that like they replaced Matt Canada. So one of the things I like targeting is two offenses that I think had great upgrades in play caller, and that's the Chargers with Kellen Moore. They're going to play faster pace. They're going to throw more downfield. They added Quentin Johnston, so better supporting cast for Herbert. I love Justin Herbert this year because of that. And then the Ravens, Todd Monken, bring him over as offensive coordinator. Again, they're going to play faster pace. They're going to pass more. Those are things I like to. So those are two offenses that I would like actually heavily target. Yeah. So I like looking at the play caller chain. I think that's a thing that sometimes goes a little bit overlooked, and I think it's important for sure.
I'll go first on this one. Great question. I always love to look at player ownerships, especially when I run into people. It's like, hey, show me your player ownership. First thing I ask after their name. But it's kind of funny. I pull it up right here on my underdog. And Frank's been talking about his hate for KJ Osborne. And my number one player is KJ Osborne, 26%. Yeah, that's and I don't usually go over 20% very often. So I have three players at 20%. KJ Osborne, 26%. The next one is another guy people are kind of off of, Kenneth Walker, 22%. And the third guy, Traylon Burks, who is my favorite wide receiver this year just because of the value. And with Hopkins getting signed there, like that, I don't know, that was like the best case scenario for me. So I love to, I kind of draft different than a lot of people. I Anybody play Dynasty? Big Dynasty fans? Okay. So I like to look at best ball a little bit like Dynasty. I only want young players. Like I don't. As soon as they hit a wall, like not that I won't draft them, but I'm not going to overdraft them. And if there's two guys there, I'll choose the younger guy, like in my rankings. I flip my rankings a lot. Uh, but yeah, so any of those scenarios out there that people are like, hey, I'm off this player, like Najee Harris, another guy, he's in my top 10 owned. Anytime like people start making these narratives out there that they don't like these players or they think this player is going to overtake them, I'm all about opportunity and volume, and that's in the past that's helped me win money and whatnot. So when people are bad mouthing Najee, and he's falling to the fourth round, and I know he's going to touch the ball 20 times a game. Like it's to me, it's like, yes, I'll keep drafting him, and he's part of my portfolio. It might not hit, but it's only a fourth round pick, like, and you might be getting first round value there, those kind of players. But yeah, KJ Osborne.
No, I see the appeal. Like if let's say I know I was like out on him, but like like what if Jordan Addison gets off to a slow start in his career? What if Osborne? Like that's the other thing. If you look at his routes run, I think he was in the top 20 too. So the Vikings had three receivers who are just like on the field all the time. So I do get the appeal, especially in best ball where there's like spike weeks and you don't have to think of where to start him. Oh shit. Okay, okay, okay. Oh yeah, damn, damn. But yeah, so no, I could see it.
What's that? No, that was week 17. Yeah, the Duke's game.
Oh damn.
Puppy 3, I got third place. So
Oh nice, nice.
that's one of my puppy over best ball mania every time, guys.
Oh, you like it better?
100%.
Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, so one of them that I talk a lot about on Twitter, even though like he hasn't done much in the first 2 years of his career, is Terrace Marshall. I know you mentioned you have like 12% roster of him. It's just like because the Panthers just drafted Jonathan Mingo, so the people are interested in the flashy new toy. And there's DJ Chark and Adam Thielen, but Adam Thielen looks a little bit like way past his prime. I think there's an opportunity where Marshall could ascend up the depth chart. Like he was a touted prospect coming out of LSU. He produced with Chase and Jefferson there. So I feel like sometimes I know he could be an outlier, like because usually if a player doesn't do much in their first 2 years, like they're likely not going to be that great. But there's always here and there some that they do. Like a good example with Marshall is Sidney Rice. So he used to play for the Vikings, and if you look at his career stats, his first 2 years he did like nothing. And then year 3 he had a nice season. And he was similar, like good size, and he could win downfield. So that's like my dart throw. It could be wrong, but at that stage in the draft, it's not going to hurt you. And he's only 23 years old. I think he's like a few months younger than the rookie. I mean, a few months older than Mingo that they brought in. So it's not like you can't fully write him off just yet. And he's played pretty well in camp from what I've read. And that would be one of my dart throws for sure. Would you have one?
No, I like Marshall a lot, and that's an age thing, right? He's younger. That wide receiver room is just kind of like anybody could win that receiver room. I mean, there's also some risk there, I see also the Giants. I like the Giants wide receivers. I think they're. I mean, I like Slayton. I like Hyatt. Like anybody that's going in the 18th round, just mix and match them. Bring them in. Paris Campbell, I love. Yes, yeah, he'll be. I feel like he's. I mean, he's a little more expensive, right? So I'm all about the price on these players. Yeah, I think Paris Campbell. I think he's gonna see the field a lot. It goes back to the tight ends. So they always are there in the end of the rounds, but I like to not just lock on one, kind of mix and match. So maybe I go McBride and Musgrave and like some of those young guys and mix them in on 3 tight end builds. Um, yeah, there's not so many guys I just lock into those late rounds because I've made that mistake in the past. So I try to, if I like some guys, maybe 5% owned, one out of every 20 drafts, try to grab this guy or that guy. So, yep. No, yeah, that's a great question. From experience, that's one that I don't like to draft those guys, so I just don't draft them. It's probably the wrong thing because if they sign somewhere, they're gonna get volume, whatnot. But it's like another thing. I'd rather that be somebody else's problem. I just don't want them to clog up my roster. But I think that could be the wrong way of thinking.
Yeah, I think with those players, you maybe get just you if you're gonna take one, only take one. You don't want to like have like Zeke and Hunt, because then what if like they sign but have a marginal role? You don't want to get yourself caught like that. But out of the ones who are available, probably Dalvin Cook is still a little bit too expensive, so I'd rather just go with the cheap one, like Fournette, or I think Hunt is kind of. I don't know if he. I think he's kind of done. He wasn't very good last year, and the Saints only showed interest when Benjamin like tore his Achilles. So like, I don't know. I'm not getting a good feeling with Hunt, but yeah. Just to sum it up, it would be like whoever's the cheapest one. It's usually like what Fournette. Definitely not Cook. Like he still goes to a little bit too high, I would say.
I mean, Cook's probably the most appealing one, but he's just he wants too much money, whatnot, and who knows where he's going to sign. So that's hard. But just to that point though, Fournette or a Hunt, like why not take like a Ty Chandler? Like right, right, right. Yeah, and I mean, usually they're your running back 5 or 6, right? So they're not gonna make or break. I think it's like Frank said, just don't take 2 of those guys because I think that's a little bit too risky. But yeah, no, great questions.
No, but it's a good point because like usually they'd be signed by now. It's kind of a little bit unprecedented. All these veteran running backs not getting signed, like even to like just a backup role. So I totally get that. Like it's a little riskier now. We're getting close. Like
No.
we gotta sign them.
Mary, great. No, that's a great question. Brees Hall is people love Brees Hall, right? And that kind of goes back to my where I'm kind of on Najee Harris, right? Najee Harris, Brees Hall, kind of in the same area, but everyone's like, "Hey, Brees Hall, he's actually a good running back." That's what. But the injury scares you. Um, Full disclosure, I'm probably 2% on Brees Hall. Like he's not a player I'm drafting. I see the appeal, and maybe I'm missing out on huge tournament winnings down the line. And because these best ball tournaments, it doesn't matter what really these players are doing in the first 6, 8 weeks or whatnot. It's all the money's in those last playoff rounds. So I get taking a risk on a Brees Hall, young player, new quarterback. The Jets look like a fun team. And once December rolls around, like he might be the guy that you needed all along. So I might miss out on that. So
Yeah, I was a little more concerned Brees Hall earlier in the offseason. When the Jets showed interest in Dalvin Cook, I was starting to think like they're gonna sign him. I'm not gonna draft like because if they signed Cook, Hall's ADP would probably drop another round. So why draft? Like let's wait it out and see. But now getting closer to the season doesn't seem like that's gonna happen. And like you said, Hall could maybe get off to a slow start, but he could be that he's got that. He could be a workhorse who catches passes. He's got everything you want. But yeah, in general, guys coming off the torn ACL, I'm a little bit like I approach them with some trepidation, like a little bit cautious. Like I don't think they're gonna have like hit their ceiling that year in the year off it, but they could produce like Godwin did well last year. But overall, I try to, yeah, I haven't been taking much Hall. Maybe I should a little bit just in case like I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm generally cautious with the players off the injury.
So how do you guys handle like outland injuries for teams? If you were drafting a while back, you completely lost a lot of value in the ADP. Is it still somebody that you'll still draft even though you know that you're losing, you already lost 2 or 3 rounds of ADP as opposed to other people who are drafting them? Or does that bother you to draft a player like that?
no, not really at all. Like I'll draft him now. I think that's more. I know that that's the whole discussion. Those teams maybe built a super team or whatever because they got them 5 rounds later and things like that. But they also could have had like 2 or 3 players on that team that were awful picks. Like, oh, people are only going to screenshot, oh, I got Madison at this spot in the draft. But then they're showing you, oh, you also took Robert Woods in the 13th round, Like, so I think it all evens out. Like, we know more. The further you go, the more information you know. And I think if you're a solid drafter, that's more of an advantage of missing out on Madison 2 months ago. Like, yeah, just move on, and it's all good.
Yeah, but I think what you were saying about, I think that's part of the appeal that we could say to you is that like drafting early, you can take advantage of these situations that like as you get closer to the season, that player's ADP will rise because there's been more clarity in how he's going to be used. Like Madison was a perfect example. So that just speaks to why you should maybe, if you're playing like on these best ball tournaments, do a few teams early because you could take advantage of that like really good value. Like I think he went like probably like what ninth or something, I would say. Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Kind of spiked at a certain point, and now he's fallen a little bit more. So you can still get like some dips on him too. So.
yeah. Everyone seems to dislike Madison this year because they think he's not really a good running back, and I get that he's been inefficient, but at the same time, like the last couple years of his career, we've been drafting him as Dalvin Cook's backup. Oh, what if Dalvin Cook gets hurt? Well, like Dalvin Cook is gone now. Like this is what we wanted. Now what? We don't like him all of a sudden. I think I'm cool with him if you take him like the sixth round. Not reaching on him. I don't think he's got like crazy upside, but I disagree with those who are seem to be like so many who are against him, like comparing him to like Mike Davis in Atlanta and stuff. I think that's a bit over the top. So I'm in with him. Was there a question?
That's my jam. Like the NFL playoff best ball. Oh, that's I mean, what we saw last year, right? The Eagles and Chiefs, and they're both number one seeds, and they messed all those contests up, right? Like it was hard to have five players that would start for you. Like if you had five players, you were winning a bunch of money. So um, that's my favorite best ball game. Like this is all about regular season best ball. We've been talking, right? But I roll whatever my bankroll is. I'll roll it into the playoff best ball. The last 2 years, I've had some success, and that's where like I've won three. I've won, yeah. Me and Hope won together, and the year before I won one of them, and I won on drafters too. So I've won like three of those first place contests on the playoff best ball. And I think there's a lot of strategy in there where, like you said, that you don't know what to do with the number one seeds. You don't know like who's going to make the playoffs, what teams they're going to play, things like that. Um, and a lot of people don't know how to draft. Where you need to have about 5, 6 players guaranteed in that Super Bowl in order to make money. So you're just building for the Super Bowl basically. Where I'm kind of against Week 17 in regular season, but I'm all about the Super Bowl in those formats. So yeah, I love those formats. Oh yeah, yeah, like yeah. So you want to build out, and those go by quarterbacks too, right? Like your first pick, you're Patrick Mahomes, and then you're going Chiefs. You're building out your Chiefs lineup, and then go one offs. If you want to help you get out of round one, you're gonna need another QB. So like I don't know who was the other team. Yeah, he grabbed like yeah Daniel Jones, and like you don't care what he does after the first week. So yeah, yeah, those are fun formats for sure. All right, we got like 17 minutes. What? Or we can be done.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, like a lot of people worry about where they're drafting. Right, this year it feels everyone wants the first or the second pick because it feels like locked in on Jefferson or Chase, and then you just feel so safe and you can sleep at night and everything. But after that, it's kind of a toss up. If you get pick 3 or 4, do you take Tyreek? Do you take Hill or do you take Kelsey? Do you McCaffrey? Like it's really hard. So I love the first two picks. If I don't get those, I like to get the back end. So I like to like pick 11, 12, and then I can build out my team a lot better that way.
I think one thing I like if you're picking in the first or second overall is I love Mark Andrews this year. I think he's got a huge upside. Like he's only 1 year removed from outscoring Kelsey in points per game in fantasy. So if I'm picking at the beginning of the draft, early third, I can lock him in. So I feel nice. I know he'll be there. So that would be one thing I would focus on if I'm picking early. I'm thinking like, I know I'm getting Andrews in the third, so I draft accordingly to know that I'm going to do that. Yeah.
How do you guys format your like when you rename your teams on Underdog? What's the format?
Just like the label it a different name. I draft too many teams to do that, but yeah, I do it like well after they advance out of the into the playoff rounds, and then I will just to kind of see if I have like better teams. But playoffs, I do that a lot. Like I'll do like 6 Chiefs and 4, you know. Oh, another playoff thing: take one conference and then the other conference too. Like build it out one conference and then teams from the other conference is a big deal. So, well, yeah. No, appreciate it, everyone.